Okay, so we are on part 2 of the lesson, and you can turn your books to page 132. Page 132. Lesson F, another view. Okay, so if you look at this picture, you will see that it is a recipe for pumpkin pie, and specifically for Mother's Thanksgiving pumpkin pie. That's just the title, of course, or the name of this pie, but it's likely a generic, basic style of pumpkin pie. When you look at recipes, you'll probably find different variations, and sometimes it's really the same, but only small things are modified, and sometimes people like to give their specific recipe a name, and they might add walnuts or some other kind of nuts, or some sort of filling or topping, or change the crust, or add some kind of special ingredient. But anyway, so we can see that this is Mother's Thanksgiving pumpkin pie, so it seems like it's very old school, traditional style. Okay, so let's take a look. Of course, all recipes are separated into the ingredients and the instructions, and it also includes the servings. And sometimes, especially these days with the health conscious population, you might see calories or other nutrition information. But when you see the ingredients, you can see how people use countable and non-countable nouns. For example, pie crust is countable. So you can just say one pre-made pie crust, but something like salt or sugar is not countable. So you have to measure it using things like teaspoons or cups. Same thing with heavy cream, butter. These are non-countable nouns. And when you see fraction, like 1/4, you can read it like 1/4 teaspoon salt, or you can read 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Okay, so 1/4, in this case, a half, and sometimes you might see 1/8, or 3/4. You could also read it as 3/4. Okay, but that's just those are just some side notes about recipes, because I know many of you have been making or baking all kinds of food and desserts during this quarantine period. Anyway, let's look at the questions. Okay, so I want you to go ahead and take some time to answer these questions and try to use complete sentences. Okay, so you can pause the video and continue when you're finished. Okay, so let's look at number 1. Which ingredient do you need 1 cup of? Okay, so if you just skim the recipe quickly, you can see 1 cup here, 1 cup here, and if you look at the answers, we can see that sugar and heavy cream are both the answers. So here, letter D, both A and B is the answer. But if you make a sentence, you can say, you need 1 cup of heavy cream and sugar. Okay, you need 1 cup of heavy cream and sugar. Or, of course, you can say you need 1 cup of both A and B, or both heavy cream and sugar. So the answer is D. And then number 2, what should you do after you blend the cream cheese and pumpkin? Okay, so this is already a sentence. So, of course, you can just say add the salt and sugar. So the answer is A. If you want to make a sentence that includes or restates the question, you can say, after you blend the cream cheese and pumpkin, comma, add the salt and sugar. Okay, after you blend the cream cheese and pumpkin, add the salt and sugar. And again, you can say add the salt and sugar first. So you can say add the salt and sugar after you blend the cream cheese and pumpkin. Okay, and then number 3, which ingredient is not required? Okay, so if you look here, it says the quarter teaspoon of ground ginger is optional. So you can say ginger is not required. And then number 4, according to the recipe, what would be a good synonym for the word blended? Okay, and as you know, synonym means a similar meaning word. Okay, and we see that word blended here in number 4. It says, then add the salt and sugar and beat until blended. Okay, so you can say mixed is a good synonym for the word blended. Okay, mixed, so letter D. Okay, let's take a look at exercise B. Okay, Anna's class is having a potluck. Okay, and potluck is italicized, so it's a vocab word or vocabulary word, but most of you, if not all of you, already know what this is because we have done this in our class before. But a potluck is when each person who comes to a party brings something that they made or bought. Okay, so the host doesn't make everything. The guests each bring one dish. Okay, and then everyone is supposed to bring something. And there we go. There's the definition of a potluck. Her classmates are asking her to bring a dish from her country. Anna has very little time and money now and can't afford to make the dish for the potluck. What should she do? Okay, so just briefly take some time to think about some options and make a sentence solution. Okay, so you can pause the video if you want and continue when you're finished. Okay, so you might say she should ask someone in her family to make something because she has very little time, but maybe someone else in her family can do it. And if we're worried about money, then maybe she should buy something simple and affordable. Often you can buy packaged desserts for pretty cheap, so maybe she could just buy a dessert from her country. And you might have some other solutions, and if so, I'm sure they're good. Okay, so we're going to look at a worksheet before we move on to the next page. So let's look at this one. Okay, so let's take a look at exercise A. How much do you know about U.S. holidays? Write questions. Okay, so let's look at the first one. The answer is, it is December 31st. Okay, so you can ask, when is New Year's Eve? Or what date is New Year's Eve? Okay, so take some time to make questions for each of these answers. Okay, so you can pause the video and continue when you're finished. Okay, so let's look at number 2. It is July 4th. Okay, so for this one, it's actually coming up really soon. We can ask, when is the 4th of July? Okay, and we capitalize 4th because this whole thing is the name of the holiday. Now you can also ask, when is Independence Day? Okay, when is Independence Day? And then number 3, turkey. So now it's not a date, but it's a food item. So you might ask, what do Americans, or you can say people, eat on Thanksgiving? Okay, what do people eat on Thanksgiving? Now, of course, you can ask all kinds of questions for the answer to be turkey, but since this is a holiday quiz, you want to include Thanksgiving. Okay, what do people eat on Thanksgiving? Okay, or you could also say, what is the main dish for Thanksgiving? Okay, and then number 4, they give flowers and chocolates to someone they love. Okay, so this is an action or activity, so we also use what. Okay, what do people do on Valentine's Day? Something's wrong with the font now. It looks different. It's more spread out, but it doesn't matter. Okay, so what do people do on Valentine's Day? Or you could also say, what do people give to each other on Valentine's Day? But this is probably the simplest and best answer. What do people, or best question, what do people do on Valentine's Day? And then finally, number 5, it is April 1st. So we can ask, when is April Fool's Day? When is April Fool's Day? Okay. Unfortunately, this year, not many people observed or celebrated April Fool's Day because as you know, these days, because of the coronavirus, the mood is very solemn, very serious. So since April Fool's Day is silly, most people didn't really celebrate it. Okay, now let's look at exercise B, another recipe. It says, read the recipe for chocolate brownies. Number the steps in the correct order. Then try to bake some at home. Okay, so let's look at the ingredients. 2/3, so here you can see another fraction, 2/3 cup flour, or you can say, if you want to say it in a sentence, you could say you need 2/3 cup of flour. Okay, and then you can see 1/2 teaspoon of baking powder, 1/4 teaspoon of salt, 1/3 cup of butter, 2 squares or 1 ounce each of chocolate, 1 cup of sugar, 2 eggs beaten, okay, a 1/2 cup of chopped nuts, and 1 teaspoon of vanilla. Okay, so take some time to put the instructions or steps in the correct order, and you can pause the video and continue when you're finished. Okay, so as you can see, the first step is preheat the oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. Mix the flour, baking powder, and salt in a bowl. Okay, and the second one should be this one. Melt the butter and chocolate over hot water or very low heat. Now, you might see this written as double boiler if you're familiar with melting chocolate, since you cannot melt chocolate in a pot directly on the stove because it will burn the chocolate. So usually people put water in a bowl or pot and then another pot or bowl over that pot so that it doesn't directly touch the pot on the fire. Or, of course, you can microwave it too. Let's see. And then the third step looks like this one. In a second bowl, because you can see here it says in a bowl, and then so in a second bowl, beat the eggs. Add the sugar to the eggs a little at a time. Okay, and it is also common to see something like while the butter and chocolate are melting, beat the eggs in a second bowl, something like that, because you can see that this one is more likely to be the second step than the third step, because this takes time. So you might see, while step 2 is happening, do step 3. So while the butter and chocolate are melting, beat the eggs in a second bowl. Or in a second bowl, beat the eggs. Okay, and the fourth step is mix in the chocolate and butter mixture. Okay, like mix it into this bowl with the eggs. And then stir in the flour mixture from step 1 and blend well. Okay, and then stir in chopped nuts and vanilla. Okay, and then now everything's mixed. So this is the 6th step, which is to pour into an 8-inch square pan. Sometimes you might see 8 by 8, which is basically the same as 8-inch squared. So pour into an 8-inch square pan. Bake at 350 degrees for about 25 minutes. And sometimes you'll see extra instructions that show you how to determine if the brownies or cake are ready, but it might say insert a toothpick to in the middle of the mixture to see if it comes out clean. So that's one way you can determine if the if it's ready. Okay. Sorry about that. And then the final step is to cool in the pan and cut into squares. Serve with ice cream. And that should be optional, but very great suggestion. Okay. All right, so we're going to look at the next page in Lesson F, which is Grammar Connections, and we're going to learn about tag questions. Okay, so I'm going to play the grammar lesson, and when you're finished watching it, you can move on to part 3 of the lesson. Okay?
Grammar Connections, Unit 10, Lesson F. Tag questions. Watch and listen. A tag question is a small question at the end of a statement. Use tag questions to confirm what you think is true or not true. A positive statement is followed by a negative question tag, and a negative statement is followed by a positive question tag. Affirmative sentence and negative tag.
You like to dance, don't you?
Yes, I do. I like to dance.
Actually, no, I don't like to dance.
Negative sentence and affirmative tag.
You don't like to dance, do you?
No, I don't. I don't like to dance.
Actually, I do. I like to dance.
Affirmative sentence and negative tag.
You're tired, aren't you?
Negative sentence and affirmative tag.
You aren't tired, are you?
Affirmative sentence and negative tag.
You went to a restaurant, didn't you?
Negative sentence and affirmative tag.
You didn't go to a restaurant, did you?
Affirmative sentence and negative tag.
He got a new job, didn't he?
Negative sentence and affirmative tag.
He didn't get a new job, did he?
Affirmative sentence and negative tag.
They know Jenny, don't they?
Negative sentence and affirmative tag.
They don't know Jenny, do they?
Check your understanding. Look at the picture and the questions. Complete the first question with the correct tag. Now complete the second question with the correct tag. Now listen to the questions.
You're tired, aren't you?
You aren't tired, are you?
You went to a restaurant, didn't you?
You didn't go to a restaurant, did you?
He got a new job, didn't he?
He didn't get a new job, did he?
They know Jenny, don't they?
They don't know Jenny, do they?
Let's review. Affirmative sentence plus negative tag.
You like to dance, don't you?
Yes, I do. I like to dance.
Actually, no. I don't like to dance.
You're tired, aren't you?
You went to a restaurant, didn't you?
Negative sentence plus affirmative tag.
You don't like to dance, do you?
No, I don't. I don't like to dance.
Actually, I do. I like to dance.
You aren't tired, are you?
You didn't go to a restaurant, did you?